Welcome back to another Slice of Life episode of this multimedia project. It's our Arts of Year, and we're here to cover some employment-related activities. There's at least, I think, 10 tabs here that are related to, for example, LinkedIn, Indeed, resumes, job postings, and so on and so forth, as well as connections on LinkedIn. So without further ado, I just want to mention very briefly that I am feeling quite sick. So I was actually quite feverish last night up till like this afternoon. I can still feel the minor headache. So if I'm not as loud or as energetic as I usually am, well, usually it's a hard word to say because a lot of my episodes I'm fairly downtrodden because I have to keep my volume down. But even so, you might find me a little bit less expressive, and that's just because I'm not feeling too well. Yeah, hopefully it passed. It's just probably a virus, just another, maybe caught the flu or something, I don't know. So let's just get started. This is going to be a resume from Indeed. Okay. All right, so this is actually a resume that is in PDF format that I downloaded from Indeed, and I filled out most of my experiences on here based off of just my entire employment history. It wasn't specific to any particular niche. So you can see here there's a home visitor, direct sales representative, order picker packer, information assistant, and these aren't even the most recent ones. These experiences that I've been through, the people I've met while working for these different organizations, volunteering, working, business, employment, I enjoyed overall. I very much enjoyed these experiences, and so one of them is a long-term care seniors home called SPLC, and they're all in kind of different districts of the larger area that I live in. For example, one might be in Brampton, one might be in Vaughan, another might be in Markham, another might be in Scarborough, another might be in Leslieville, another might be even out by Whitby, I believe, once. So been across the city, and that's because I had the pleasure to work with a contracting agency that allowed me to experience many different companies and meet many different communities and people. So SPLC, Senior Persons Living Connected, is one of them. And that's when I was volunteering. So confidentiality, rationale, calling isolated seniors, buying groceries for them, teaching them iPads, how to use Samsung tablets, and so on and so forth, planning, creativity, research, so on and so forth. There was a direct sales representative job that I did once, and for several years. It's not a job, actually, that's more business, that's self-employment. And long-term, focused on long-term relationship building with a leader every other 2 weeks, working through our methods of sales, ABC, prospecting, all that kind of stuff on specific cellular nutrition. So it was very heavily research oriented, and it was regarding cellular supplements that deliver targeted types of active ingredients that can make a difference over a long period of time of sustained use. And basically it's an advanced version of Centrum, for example. And then a third one down here is order picker packer. This is when I was working for a company that was in North York, and this one, North York, Vaughan, Scarborough, this one was focused on first aid and personal protective equipment. So we made things like masks, gloves. This was before even the pandemic started. We already were manufacturing things like medical supplies, surgical instruments, all sorts of different types of scissors that people will use in the operating room. And so on and so forth. And further down here, there's even one where I was an information assistant, and it's only one of 3-4 pages, right? I've done a lot of things and like to meet a lot of people, and these are the experiences that I highly cherish and value in life. And and I think the last one that I'll cover here is just I was at the hospital and was volunteering information desk, patient registration, and emergency ER. So it's fairly comprehensive, but the reason why this one's open in the first place is because it's not actually up to date. I believe it says on the versioning history that this is 2024 last February, so this is a full year out of date, 12 months exactly. So I do want to keep this open actually, and because I want to remind myself to fix this up. Specifically, I want to add my most recent position at a different store. I noticed that because it's a year out of date by 12 months, that was before I moved to my most recent store, much larger store down by the city, downtown core, and so it's completely missing that, and that's substantial. It has a lot of different things like SAP, UPC scanning, DFSM apps, a lot of technical skills that are associated with inventory and administration in terms of using devices to keep track of the inflow and outflow of products. And so that's something that I definitely want to update. So next here, what you see on the top left, so this is basically, a drop cloud folder where I include all the certificates that I've earned and accomplished, like awards, accomplishments, certificates over the course of my career and training, education, and so on and so forth. So some things here include my optometry admissions test score way back like over a decade ago, like 13 years in 2012. Perfect score apparently. It was like, I'm really good at reading comprehension. And these are things I focused a lot on because I'm a bit of a philosopher. So I was also really good at organic chemistry, perfect score there, 95th percentile and stuff like that. But there were other things that I was not doing really well on. I did not manage my time very well, so a weakness I had at that time, and I think I still have to a degree here, it's probably my weaker areas, is time management, specifically with mathematical, abstract algebra. Not abstract algebra. I think it's not derivations, it was like proofs, right? It was proofs. Thinking like outside the box and thinking outside the box I'm good at, but like specifically when it comes to manipulation of like abstract formula to create, to demonstrate a certain principle, I just suck at that, and so I didn't do very well on the mathematical portion, even though typically I do really, really well in things like calculus and stuff like that. And so that's was like more than 10 years ago, at least. We have on the side here, we have things that are less academic in nature. So this is when I was self-employed business, right? For Usana, certificates on reaching a certain ranking, accomplishing a certain amount of sales. There's one down here that has to do with a public health food safety certificate, I can tell. So this was when I was trying to get accredited for a certain type of I think food service, not retail. It was for like restaurants and waiting. Although I never became a waiter, I was at best like a busser. I didn't really want to do wait staff because I knew how difficult that job can be in terms of just managing everything. You don't learn too much in terms of like valuable skills. It's just a very frustrating job, so I decided not to do a waiter. I also have further certificates down here for, when I was volunteering for a seniors home, and I did a lot of departments in health promotion, friendly visiting, the terrace restaurant even. And so I became I had this youth provincial award, state award, Youth Ontario Volunteer Service Award, and it was a lot of just like recognition. It was a little bit like, it's kind of like, there was a bit of virtue signaling there. I didn't like that because it was almost like the speaker was like this really like super, it was extra sass. It was like gay levels of sass. And like I don't have anything against that, but it was very hard to listen to, I will say, because it's like, oh my god, this is such a wonderful award, and you have been like, oh, everyone just like clap their hands, give a round of applause for it. It was just it was all out like self-congratulatory like sassiness, and I didn't really like that. But overall, I did appreciate the award, of course, from the ministry and the government. And then there was also I think I just like, yeah. And then in the middle, there's also like a certificate for the like employee of the month, believe it or not, for my staffing agency. So I want to keep this open. This is something that I do cherish, and I think because I'm reaching a point right now where I may be training for more things, I may want to keep this tab open as well. Okay, so this one's a little bit more straightforward. It's literally just a file of probably my resume, or no, it's like my certificate. Seems to be Indeed and LinkedIn certificate having to do with my most recent company, and probably I think it's a certificate having to do with like when I pass certain courses, online courses only, they're not like full-blown courses, like an online course on like cybersecurity, or an online course on like work culture and mindset, like Better 3 culture or whatever, on customer service. Another one on I really enjoyed this one. It was like restrictive covenants, and that one focused on negotiating deals. So that was definitely new for me, and I really enjoyed that. But basically there's a certificate at the end of those, and that's what's kind of here, but the file's not found, so I might have like renamed it. All of these once again are on that folder that I just showed you, where it's like, well, it's basically my folder for dumping all the like awards and accomplishments, and yeah. Which I should mention, there's like 2 of them. There's 2 of these like not found tabs, so they're probably 2 different certificates from the same company. And yeah. Oh dear, this is a very loaded one. Jeez. Yeah, this was very recent. God. So basically this is like a memo I created to address certain types of misbehavior from, how to put this, I was volunteering for over 15 years for that seniors home that I mentioned. And unfortunately, one of the things that happened was that like I said, during the pandemic from like 2021 to 2025 recently, like it's just 2020 to 2025, people were really oversensitive, trigger happy, victim mentality minded, and super self-centered and egocentric as a result of the 2010s. And so with that culture, people were really, really like super pansy. And the way to describe this is like, I would use the word wuss, like, oh, you're a total fucking pussy, like any little thing, you get a little paranoid and start thinking that there's some kind of like, oh, you're being like ism this, ism that. And then you lash out aggressively with hostility. So then with all that insecurity and trigger happiness you have inside you, and oversensitivity to like, oh, he just looks different, oh, look at him, he's so like, he reminds me of like my ex or whatever, or I heard this or that about him, and so let's just bully and harass him because he makes me feel uncomfortable and discomforting. So I basically wrote up, believe it or not, almost like a termination letter here, and it was my way of addressing, and one of my colleagues actually understood what was going on, and she understood why I decided to leave. And so I'll read a little excerpt here. Most likely I will keep this open, but so it's like, to whom this may concern, and this was like September of last year, but a year and a half ago. I decided to discontinue volunteering in person at SPLC. This memo regards why I will cease physically servicing the community, but is also a conveniently candid confession to the Holy Trinity himself and Father Dean at St. Paul's. So I am, like, in some ways partially spiritual and religious, and Father Dean has been he's someone I really, really deeply appreciate. But to be clear, several Chinese residents, tenants, and staff were very hostile, super oversensitive, and incredibly offended by my presence just being there in 2023 Active Living Fair, directing me slander, prejudice, bad faith, spreading whatever nonsense was on their mind to others in the community. Meanwhile, all I simply did was try to focus on my job and perform my duties. And they just won't let you go, right? I don't know what they saw, but that's their problem, not mine to carry, their own temper tantrums, emotional baggage, or paranoid projections. This is disappointing, having done what I did well over 15 years, volunteering for people and community whom I genuinely cared for. I have no interest in surrounding my circle with drama, blame games, betrayal, sadism, malice, and so on, especially after understanding through experience, therapy, and research how to properly enforce my personal boundaries against people with glaring red flags of bitterness, arrogance, resentment, and so on and so forth. It was very disappointing for me. Like I said, I volunteered for this organization, and I technically still do, but very, very distantly so. It reminds me of the volatile and dangerous household in which I was imprisoned for 3 decades of my life, constantly walking on eggshells over irresponsibly defensive people. And that's basically the letter. It's not all of it, but I think I'll keep this open because it does highlight something that's related to employment and what I would say is like a candid confession during a difficult time, right? It's like a letter you might write as a termination letter outlining the reasons why you may leave a company, especially a certain company where you don't have any vested interest in maintaining any sort of positive relationship with anymore, because the people who work there are so like generally toxic, and it's just cancer, right? There's no need for you to hide that. You can call it out. So okay, so over here what we have is what happened there? What we have here is a training tab, and what happened was, so getting back on track with in terms of like LinkedIn and Indeed and like certificates and awards, right? That was an employment, that was a volunteering thing. I just mentioned about the letter about toxic workplace culture, and a termination letters, right? How to like craft one that is kind of just direct and straight to the point, right? There's no need to sugarcoat if there's like clear workplace harassment and abuse. So, but over here, back to the terms of like training, I want to talk a little bit about and again, most of the companies I've worked with did not have that kind of issue with, because I would navigate myself around people like that. But unfortunately, again, during the pandemic, like everyone became toxic, so you just couldn't avoid it, because like every single colleague was like 3 out of 5, 60% of people were like that. Anyways, over here is talentcentral.us.shl, and what this is basically an online training tab, because I at the time, about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, I'm still affiliated with a certain program of our state or province. It's a government program, and part of that allows me to apply for third-party organizations for training. And so one of those things that I wanted to train for was IT, and IT, information technology. And at the time, it was an application for a program for like Cisco and networking, things like IP address, troubleshooting, network issues and Wi-Fi. And it's a skill set that you can use to become an IT professional, right? And so there was this test, I believe it was multiple choice. There were like 60 questions or so. I'm not remembering how much. I can't tell you any specific details, obviously. Privacy confidentiality. I'm not going to disclose anything about the test, obviously. But that's what this is. And unfortunately, I didn't get in, and that's because there was a real major boom, and everyone was basically trying to apply. At the time, we had a lot of international people coming from over across seas. And long story short, even though apparently my application was pretty strong, but she told me that even though it was strong, it wasn't strong enough, because they had an influx of over, believe it or not, 400 applicants. There are 400 applicants, and they could only accept 12 people. So that is, what's the ratio? 400, 12, divvy. That's more than 30 times the amount of applicants than they can reasonably accept. And again, a lot had to do with like migration and stuff like that, but it was just kind of disappointing to see that, like it was being completely overwhelmed. Needless to say though, there were people who were really good at it, and good luck to them. And I think they must have graduated by now from this program. It didn't take too long. It was probably like, I think 8 to 12 weeks. So maybe about 3-4 months. And, but disappointing enough, I didn't make it in. Here's another example. I think this was like a FAQ of the same website. So search by topic, platforms, issues with logging in and accessing tests, error messages, audio, webcam, screen issues, timed assessments. Again, it was like a quiz. It was like a test. Timing, submitting general issues, deadlines, and results. And even though, once again, I would say I scored pretty well, but like, again, compared to the influx of, if there's 400 applicants, at least 10% of those applicants are just going to be really, there are going to be people there who have worked in IT for like 20 years, and this is all like basic information for them. So they completely blow me out the water in terms of experience, know-how, knowledge, practice. There's no way I could compete with them. And honestly, if that's the case, like good on them for actually getting in, because they're the ones who'll be qualified and capable of actually turning this certificate and making something good out of it. But again, it's just very disappointing for me on my end. So I just moved on to other things, right? It didn't last long. I just like, oh fuck, well, within the next 2 hours, I just decide to look for other programs. But this is troubleshooting here. So system browser requirements, right? Issues you might have when you're taking the test, and data questions, additional support, and what can we help you with? Okay, so this here is a resume of mine, and it's a very old resume at that. Yeah, this is definitely an old resume. I called it the geriatric resume, and that's because it was tailored towards like working in a healthcare environment that focused on like long-term care seniors and stuff like that. So it had a lot of focus on like general social work, healthcare, customer service, patient-centered and oriented care. So I'll list some things here, right? And it's a very outdated resume. So the format is probably something of like, I don't know, like 2010. All right, that's when I was like just graduating high school. So long-term housing, relevant experience, relevant skill set, relevant activities, and then education and certificates. Now, a lot of these experiences listed here are not very good by any measure. I don't think they don't carry a lot of like solid weight, but that's because, in my opinion, most social service work doesn't carry that much like weight. And I'm just gonna call it out. It's not like medicine. It's not like legal. It's not engineering. It's not accounting. It's not like anything that requires a serious degree with expertise in a particular niche. Most of these things are kind of like, you know, you might be a paralegal instead of a full-blown lawyer. You know, 2 years diploma. You know, maybe less than that. So tutor, busser, marketing associate, fundraiser, attendant, you know, working for the contractor, you know, so it's kind of very basic stuff. And yeah, and the format is out of date. The most recent experience here listed is like 2017, so it's already more than like 7 years out of date now, and I don't have any reason for this to be open aside to just talk about it before I get rid of it. All right, so keeping on track in terms of like government related jobs and government related education and training programs. This is over here a something that has to do with hold on, let me move that graphic a little bit. This is something that has to do with the city, so it's a municipality. This is specifically jobs for the city that I'm living in. If you're interested in working for a government or a third-party partner that's affiliated with the government, like a social program, a legal aid clinic, a social work clinic, one focused on housing, that's where it is. This one apparently, right, the position obviously has been fulfilled. When I first got this in my email, it popped up in my like email address, and I clicked on it because I subscribed to government-related jobs at the time, and it brought me over to EOS. It was a team assistant for some kind of social work. Now, obviously, I don't have any interest in stuff like that, but it was just interesting to take a look at what's available. So select how often days you want to receive an alert, 7 days, create an alert, sorry, this position has been filled, search by keyword, show more options, and blah-de-da. So obviously get rid of this because it's already been fulfilled and I don't have any reason for this. All right, so let's kind of wrap this up full circle by going to topics related to LinkedIn. Kind of just wrap up employment section on LinkedIn. So what you have here is basically a tab on clear.me, and what that is, it's if you have a LinkedIn profile, which I think most people have, what they do is they allow you to verify your identity by, you know, scanning through multi-factor authentication using biometrics. And so you could, for example, scan your photo ID, and that will correspond to your country's. Now, of course, it depends which country. Like most countries don't have this clear system. It's particularly a North American company, I believe, in the States. But it will correlate your pieces of identification to that of whatever's on your LinkedIn profile, and you can confirm that using biometrics as well. Now, I would say it's pretty disappointing because I tried to verify, and one of the major hiccups was that because my photo ID, obviously for my driver's license and whatnot, is taken from like 7 years ago. I just looked different. I didn't even have long hair at that time. I still had like short hair or like medium length hair or whatever. The standard like Asian like shortcut, and I don't, so I just look different now. It's obvious, right? And so it was very frustrating because no matter how many times I tried to make it, it's the same piece of ID that I have, they just won't verify. And so I was kind of miffed. I was pissed off because I was like, fuck, of all things on LinkedIn, you can't verify. I don't give a shit if you don't verify on Twitter. Fuck Twitter. But I mean, on LinkedIn, professional networking, and like, you're telling me that I can't verify myself on that. So that was sad. And same thing on top of that, I couldn't even verify like with my own workplace because my current retail store only I do have like a work email address, but it only accepts internal emails. In other words, I can't receive an email from Clear. And so I think I'm just going to close this. It really got me pissed off, but I do say that at least I tried and I do have an account. So apparently click Clear, login, enter your mobile number to get started. And yeah, we're not going to do that. Obviously it didn't work. And I'm going to show you here too. This is basically the support page. It's like, enroll or renew TSA pre-check through Clear. For you, enjoy faster, friction-free experiences at airports, arenas, everywhere in between. Clear Plus, TSA pre-check, Clear Mobile, sports, where to use Clear. Who are we? We are an identity company that makes experiences safer and easier wherever you work, live, and travel. And it's fairly straightforward, right? And Clear support, Clear verified, perks, partners. Once again, it seems like to me this website is just like not functional right now for me, but that's to be expected given how many tabs I open. So we'll just get rid of this as well. Like, if you couldn't tell, I was just trying to troubleshoot. I was trying to troubleshoot my issues with Clear, and I didn't find any answers. This one here is another tab. Apparently it's just when I tried to reset my password reset emails on the way again with Clear, right? I just fed up, reset your password. You still can't log in, contact us here. Again, just pointless. Turns out there were 2 of these tabs, another one for the home page. Again, just Clear, that is totally useless. All right, so as I was saying, finally getting rid of Clear and all their bullshit. We're out here with just kind of wrap things up on LinkedIn. And well, there's still one more thing I want to show, but it's related to something we talked about, which is the termination letter. We didn't actually submit it. We're not intending to. But what we have here is, again, after getting pissed off about not being able to verify myself on LinkedIn, what we have here is the invitation manager, which kind of lists down all the invites that you receive from other people who want to connect with you. And so once again, it's just fairly straightforward. You can see that I have at least, a long line of list here. One is from a newsletter from McMaster University asking you to subscribe to their mail, but then the rest are people. So there's someone here who is a real estate sales professional. He wants to connect. I didn't respond because I told him I don't know you. It seems like to me he might be one of those like MLM type of like pyramid scheming things. Other one below is like this guy's an engineer. And he works for the National Bank software engineering. I'm not sure if I sent him a message, but basically I don't think I know him. And it seems like to me he's connected with other people that are connected to me, but I haven't met this person before. And the same thing with someone down here, who apparently is like an international student, I believe, and wants to connect. Again, I haven't met them. Usually I don't respond to people who try to connect with me when I haven't met them in person. So that's just kind of how that works. I'm not particularly a big fan of the whole clout chasing thing of trying to like, oh, I have X and X number of friends or X and X number of like people added on connections. I have 500 plus connections. Like there's a merit and there's benefit to it, but a lot of that just sounds like excessive marketing stuff, because how many people do you really know at a level that is functional? So I think I kind of put quality over quantity over that. So, and keeping in line with that, not only is there an invitation manager, here's the messaging board, obviously, where on LinkedIn you can find your contacts and if you want to message anyone. And I don't have any reason to do that, but like I said, there have been some episodes in the past where I spoke probably about 2 or 3 months ago maybe less, about some messages and how I generally respond to correspondence on LinkedIn. So again, not a big fan of the attention seeking stuff or like increasing your account, like, oh, I have, a million followers or whatnot. It's more about people who I really know, who I really get to know on a deeper level. And it's not anything against having, a large count, but it is to say that unless I have a particular reason to, I personally will not usually accept invitations unless I know them. Okay, keeping in line with LinkedIn, this is something that I talked about certificates earlier today in this episode. So this is something called GoSkills, which is at one point a startup that I invested heavily on when I was way back in 2015. And it trains you on a lot of very critical and crucial skill sets related to administration, product design, software, SaaS, software as a service, Excel, Word, Microsoft Access, how to use Microsoft Teams, project planning. At that time, what was booming was the lean, agile project planning methods and stuff like that. It was focused heavily on innovation and whatnot. So this platform really teaches you a lot about stuff like that. And you can see deliver workplace training that excites and motivates. Book a demo, create a free account. I do have an account. I made a purchase, and last year actually had a year-long purchase because it was on a discount sale. But I didn't really make much use of it. Yeah, and that's all I gotta say about that. But this is again related to learning and stuff like that. I think this is a tab I might actually keep open. I'm not sure. Before we move on to the last thing, alright, so let's just wrap this up. Basically there's 2 tabs left, and they, I believe, are just a PDF version of the termination letter that I wrote out but didn't submit, again, to that seniors long-term care housing, which most of my life, half my life, I can't believe it, that's just shy of half my life I volunteered for this long-term seniors home. And I had a lot of friends, a lot of tenants, clients, staff, managers, the head CEO, the priest, the father reverend, and their families. And again, just not going there anymore because it's just so toxic nowadays. The pandemic really started some of that. I mean, the pandemic really capitalized off of what was already started in mid 2010, so it's too bad. But again, there's just a PDF letter, a PDF version of the Microsoft Word version that I read out earlier. Again, I decided to discontinue volunteering in person at blah. As we'll see, this memo regards why I will cease physically servicing the community, but also convening a candid confession to the Holy Trinity himself and Father Dean. Reminds me of the volatile, dangerous households in which I was imprisoned for 3 years, constantly walking on eggshells over irresponsible, defensive, trigger-happy adult children, and the lasting impact it had on my son and sibling. I assist out of care and goodwill for certain people, but can retract that offer if they do not treat others with sanity, civility, and good old-fashioned common sense. And I'd rather spend my short time on this planet with strong, healthy, productive, well-managed individuals, few as they come. Thankfully, that's where I am now, surrounded by the right kind of people in the work, business, health, relationships that make this life worth living. Long story short, I've moved on for a while now. Wish you all the best. Take care. And that's kind of, SPLC ALF 2023. Okay. It's sad, but let's be honest. A lot of my colleagues who I've really cherished from that company, they either moved on to different companies, better companies, or switched career paths, or some of them have even died. They've passed away. It's a seniors home, right? So a lot of my good friends have passed away. So I think that's about it. It's the same tab twice, but the first one I was able to be logged in, and the second one apparently is just I was testing a link, so I tested a share link that I created for that termination letter, and that's what this is. So you can see at the very top right that says sign in, the blue bar up there, right? There's a blue bar right here. Yeah. So it just says sign in, create account, because this is what happens if I click on the link or someone else clicks on the link that I share with them. So that's it. Okay, that's it. I'm signing out, and there's a lot of topics covered in this particular episode on employment, careers, skills, training, awards, accomplished people, communities, and toxic work cultures, and also positive work cultures. But with that being said, that's it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.